Welcome to Mr. Horror, where we bring you the most terrifying true horror stories from around the world. Get ready to be scared out of your wits with our spine-chilling tales that will leave you sleeping with the lights on. Are you ready to face your fears? Let's begin. Was a stormy night, the kind that makes you want to stay inside and never venture out. But my friend and I had other plans. We had heard about an old antique shop that was rumored to be haunted, and we were determined to investigate. We arrived at the shop just after midnight, the rain pelting down on the roof of my car. The shop was old and dilapidated, with a faded sign that read Curiosities and Antiques. We stepped inside, and immediately I felt a chill run down my spine. The air was thick with the musty scent of old books and furniture. As we made our way deeper into the shop, we saw rows and rows of strange and unusual objects. There were old dolls, antique mirrors, and even a taxidermy bear. But then something caught our eye. It was a doll, unlike any we had ever seen before. It was a porcelain doll with long black hair and a red dress. There was something about it that seemed off, something that made me feel uneasy. We were just about to leave when we heard a noise. It was like something had shifted, like the air had suddenly become thick with electricity. And then, to our horror, we saw that the doll had moved. It was just a slight shift, a movement of the head. But it was enough to make us both freeze in terror. We stood there, staring at the doll as it continued to move, ever so slightly. And then, suddenly, the lights went out. We were plunged into darkness, with only the sound of our own breathing to keep us company. We fumbled for our flashlights, trying to find our way back to the entrance. But as we made our way through the dark, we heard something that made our blood run cold. It was the sound of laughter, high-pitched and childlike, coming from somewhere deep within the shop. We didn't know what to do. We were trapped in the darkness with something that we couldn't explain. And as the laughter continued, we knew that we were in the presence of something truly sinister. We were trapped in the darkness with the sound of laughter ringing in our ears. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, and it chilled us to the bone. We tried to make our way back to the entrance, but it was like we were lost in a maze. The shop seemed to shift and change, like it was alive and taunting us. And then, suddenly, we saw it. The doll, standing in the middle of the aisle, its head turned to face us. We could see the glint of its eyes in the darkness, and we knew that we had to get out of there. We turned to run, but as we did, something grabbed my friend's arm. It was like a cold hand, and it seemed to be pulling her back towards the doll. I tried to help her, but it was like she was stuck, trapped in some kind of invisible force field. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the hand was gone, and my friend was free. We ran towards the entrance, our hearts pounding in our chests. But as we reached the door, it wouldn't budge. It was like it was locked from the other side. We turned to run back into the shop, but then we saw it. The doll was standing in front of us, blocking our path. It was like it had grown in size, towering over us with its porcelain face and red dress. And then, to our horror, it spoke. Its voice was like a whisper, but it was clear and cold.
"You cannot leave," it said. "You belong to us now."
We were paralyzed with fear, unable to move as the doll continued to speak. And then, suddenly, the lights came back on, and we were surrounded by other dolls, all with their eyes fixed on us. We tried to run, but it was like we were trapped in some kind of nightmare. The dolls seemed to be alive, moving and speaking with a life of their own. And as we looked closer, we saw that their eyes were filled with an eerie, otherworldly light. We knew then that we were not dealing with ordinary dolls. We were facing something much darker and more sinister. We were facing the devil, and he had come to claim us. We were trapped in the antique shop, surrounded by the devil and his army of dolls. It was like we were living in some kind of nightmare, unable to escape the clutches of the supernatural. We tried to fight back, but it was like we were powerless against the dolls. They seemed to be moving on their own, their porcelain faces twisted into sinister expressions. And then, suddenly, something happened. It was like the air was charged with electricity and everything in the shop started to shake. The dolls started to move even more violently, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. And then they started to speak, their voices low and menacing.
"Get out," they said. "Get out now, while you still can."
We tried to run, but it was like we were trapped in quicksand. The more we struggled, the more the dolls seemed to close in on us. And then, suddenly, a voice spoke out from the darkness. It was a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, and it was like it was commanding the dolls to do its bidding. The dolls started to move even more frantically, their eyes glowing with a fierce light. And then, to our horror, they started to attack us, clawing at our clothes and biting our skin. It was like we were facing a poltergeist, a malevolent spirit that was using the dolls as its pawns. We tried to fight back, but it was like we were facing an unbeatable foe. And then, suddenly, everything went quiet. The dolls stopped moving and the air was still. We were terrified, but we knew that we had to get out of there. We made our way towards the entrance, our hearts pounding in our chests. But just as we were about to leave, we saw it. The devil standing in front of us, blocking our path. We knew then that we were facing something much more powerful than we had ever imagined. And as the devil spoke, we knew that our lives would never be the same. We were face to face with the devil, trapped in the antique shop with no way out. It was like we were living in a nightmare, unable to escape the clutches of the supernatural. The devil stood before us, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. He was tall and imposing, with a menacing presence that seemed to fill the entire room. He spoke to us in a voice that was both terrifying and seductive. He promised us power and riches, and he said that he could make all of our dreams come true. But we knew that there was a catch. We knew that if we agreed to his terms, we would be giving up our souls to the devil. We tried to resist, but it was like he had some kind of hold over us. It was like he was speaking directly to our souls, and we couldn't help but be drawn in by his words. And then, suddenly, something happened. It was like a bolt of lightning, and the devil was thrown back against the wall. We looked around, trying to figure out what had happened, when we saw her. It was a woman, dressed in white, with a stern expression on her face. She walked towards us, and as she did, the devil seemed to shrink away. It was like he was afraid of her, like she held some kind of power over him. The woman introduced herself as a psychic medium, and she said that she had been drawn to the antique shop by some kind of spiritual energy. She explained to us that the dolls were not possessed by the devil, but by the spirits of children who had died in a tragic fire that had occurred in the building many years ago. She said that the dolls were trying to communicate with us, to ask for our help in finding peace and closure. We were skeptical, but as we looked at the dolls, we saw something in their eyes. It was like they were pleading with us, asking us to listen. We agreed to help, and the medium led us through a ritual that was meant to help the spirits find rest. As we performed the ritual, the dolls started to move, their eyes glowing with a gentle light. And then, suddenly, they were gone. We looked around, trying to figure out what had happened, and then we saw it. It was a light shining through the windows, signaling the dawn of a new day. We stepped outside, our hearts filled with hope and wonder. We knew that we had faced something truly terrifying, but we had also found a way to conquer it. As we walked away from the antique shop, we knew that we would never forget the experience. It had changed us in ways that we could never have imagined, and we knew that we would never be the same again. But as we walked away, we knew that something had changed. We had faced the devil and come out on the other side, and we had done it together. In the days and weeks that followed, we tried to make sense of what had happened. We researched poltergeists and the paranormal, trying to understand the forces that had been at work in the antique shop. And then, one day, we received a package in the mail. It was from the psychic medium, and inside was a note and a small porcelain doll. The note explained that the doll was one of the spirits that had been trapped in the antique shop. It had come to the medium in a dream, and she had known that it was meant for us. We were hesitant to take the doll, but then we saw something in its eyes. It was like it was thanking us, like it was grateful for the help that we had given. We took the doll home, and we placed it on a shelf in our living room, and then something strange happened. It was like the doll was alive, moving on its own and communicating with us in ways that we couldn't explain. But it was a different kind of communication than what we had experienced in the antique shop. It was gentle and reassuring, like the doll was trying to tell us that everything was going to be okay. We knew then that we had been chosen for a reason. We had been chosen to face the devil and the dolls, and to emerge on the other side with a greater understanding of the world around us. And as we looked at the porcelain doll, we knew that we would never forget the experience. It had been terrifying and life-changing, but it had also shown us the true power of love and friendship. We knew that we would never look at dolls in the same way again, but we also knew that we had conquered our fears. We had faced the devil and the dolls, and we had emerged victorious. And as we sat in our living room, watching the porcelain doll move on its own, we knew that we had truly entered a new realm of understanding. We had faced the supernatural, and we had emerged with a newfound respect for the power of the unknown. Thank you for watching this terrifying tale of the devil and the dolls at 3 a.m. We hope that this story kept you on the edge of your seat and entertained you throughout. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more scary stories like this. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload a new video. And if you have any true horror stories of your own, please share them in the comments below. We love hearing from our viewers and sharing in the spooky tales that make us all shiver with fear. Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.